flowchart and algorithm as the core concept in computer studies. Can CTCA come to the rescue? Once again, I'm Deborah Agbanimu, and I also appreciate the presence of my supervisor and mentor, distinguished Professor Peter, and my colleagues present here today. So this study took place in Nigeria, Lagos State, and the problem stems from the low performance of students in schools and public examinations in computer studies. Also, in many African schools, this problem has persisted over recent years, and this could be due to poor understanding of underlying concepts, resource deficit, and poor mode of delivery. The deeper probe into the Nigerian curriculum for concepts that are considered to be difficult by the students. Okebukola et al. In 2020 found flowchart and algorithm, which emerged as the most difficult concepts in computer studies. So this study answered the research question of what specific difficulties do students have with flowchart and algorithm that impede their meaningful learning of the concept, and if the cultural contextual approach will be able to mitigate the difficulties. The study is hinged on the theoretical framework of Osborne theory of advanced organizer, the discursive cultural theory, the Okebukola technocultural theory, the Martin Ediger technophilosophy, and the Kwame Nkrumah ethnophilosophy. So this study adopted both the survey and the quasi-experimental design. For the survey, we identified the difficult concepts and also the specific difficulties they have in those difficult concepts. And for the quasi-experimental, we tested the efficacy of CTC. So for the survey phase, we have a population of about, the sample were about 1,000, sorry, there were 1,501 senior secondary computer students, which were randomly selected from Lagos, Nigeria, and Accra, Ghana. The instruments were the difficult concepts in biology, questionnaire, and also the interview guide, which was used to answer the for their concept difficulty. The results showed flowchart and algorithm emerging as the most difficult concept with a mean score of 2.12 and 2.07, and the components of computer system in the list. So students attributed the reasons for their difficulty to be poor pedagogical methods, teachers' method of teaching, the poor study habits of the learners were also inclusive, lack of problem-solving skills. But majority of the students gave their reasons to be the concept being taught in abstract and not be able to relate the concept. Looking at the response of the students, said maybe if we have practical, then I can come down and say this is how to solve a problem. I can now tell the step by giving us examples of things that we can do or see people do in our environment. Maybe I understand because on my own I cannot write an algorithm. And so that's why I decided to pick up flowchart and algorithm. For the quasi-experimental phase, where we used the CTCA to teach the student, we had both the control and the experimental group. So we had an achievement test on a flowchart and algorithm. So the treatment lasted for about 3 weeks, and each week the student had lessons on flowchart and algorithm. The students in the experimental class were taught using the CTCA strategy, while the students in the control group had their conventional teaching method. So in implementing the CTCA, a little about the CTCA, it was invented in 2015 by Professor Peter Okebukola, which was developed to break down the barriers that students experience in meaningful learning of science. So the study took place in the classroom. For the first step is to give the student pre-lesson assignment to go and watch videos and look for web resources that are related to flowchart and algorithm, not leaving asking for their guidance or people in the environment about indigenous knowledge that are related to these concepts. Then they come to the class. There have been groups where they discussed among each other about their findings, and then a leader is picked to represent their group and discuss to the whole class about what they've learned. Also, the teacher also gave relevant examples from their surrounding, clear up their misconceptions, and the last step, which is step 5, is to send a summary of the lesson to the students. So the cultural practices used to explain the concept during the experimental phase was the process involved in making palm oil, because looking at algorithm, the algorithm is a step-by-step procedure of completing a task. So since the process of making palm oil also has to go through a procedural, is a procedural step. So the teacher, even some of the students brought it as part of their findings. We also use the process of making the adherent tie and dye, and also process in making our clay pots. So the result from the study showed that the students in the CTCA class performed better than those in the control group, with a mean score of 18.24 to 7.87. So we articulated, okay, why do the CTCA group performed better? Looking at the three frameworks that made up the CTCA, the context, which is their location, the culture, and the technological aspect of it coming together in the step. This has actually helped the students to have a baseline knowledge of what they are coming to class to learn, making it easier for them to learn. Just like we have the theoretical framework of Oxbell theory of advanced organizer, which talks about how students are able to relate what they know before to their present knowledge, and can actually help them in the retention. Students in the CTCA gave their experience to be very, very enjoyable. They enjoyed the tasks they performed. They really loved the way the presentation went. At first I was wondering what it was all about, but when the explanation started and from all those examples, it became clear. There is no algorithm I can write, even to represent it with flowcharts, because they believe that CTCA actually made the process easier for them. So the recommendations from this study is to provide computer studies teachers in Africa and other countries a possible tool to set their teaching methods within the culturally relevant and technological appropriate context, and also to train teachers on the use of CTCA for teaching and learning. You might be wondering what next for CTCA. There are a whole lot of concepts in computer studies that they need to learn and which they also consider difficult. So the first thing we're talking about is creating a directory of indigenous knowledge related to this concept, so that the student can have access to it. Also, teachers can also have access to it, which is already ongoing and can be found on the approach.com. Thank you very much for listening.
Thank you so much. We had a person who was going to be admitted, but I don't know what happened to them. No worries. Well, I'm going to open the floor up to questions. Both are
Thank you, Deborah. I like what you said about having some documentation of indigenous practices. That is very important, and I appreciate that you being a great scientist, computer scientist, you have that database. So we that are learning computer science, we can go to that database and see those indigenous practices that can aid us, to learn computer science. Indeed, I think Dr. Fred Awa is aiming to do artificial intelligence studies. So, Fred, I think this gives you a good opportunity, to learn how you can. Just a minute, yeah. So, well done, Deborah. That was a good presentation. I learned a lot. I learned a lot from it.
Thank you, sir.